The abyss does not breathe. It is a vast, echoing silence that stretches between the triple fires of the Centauri system and the solitary yellow spark of our own sun. In this lightless cathedral, where the temperature clings to a few mere degrees above the absolute floor of physics, a jagged fragment of matter glides with a purpose it does not understand. It is a splinter of a world that once was, a frozen witness to a cataclysm that occurred when the ancestors of humanity were still learning to walk upright on the African savanna. This shard of history, forged in the violent death of a planetary body, now serves as a silent messenger, a note tucked into a bottle of rock and ice, cast out into the dark ocean of the galaxy. 6 million years have passed since this object was first flung into the void. The duration is a weight that the human mind struggles to balance, a span of time so immense that it renders the entirety of recorded history a mere flicker in the eyes of the cosmos. While empires rose and collapsed into the fine dust of the Earth, while the great ice sheets advanced and retreated across the northern latitudes, and while the very shape of the continents shifted under the pressure of tectonic tides, this messenger moved through the dark. It did not hurry, for in the interstellar medium, time is not measured by the ticking of a clock, but by the slow, inevitable drift of stars. There is no wind to buffet its surface, no atmosphere to erode its sharp edges, and no friction to steal the momentum granted to it by the terminal gasps of its home system. It is a ghost ship, carrying the chemical signature of a lost era, drifting at a pace that mocks the frantic, fleeting lives of biological beings. The cold in this region of space is not merely the absence of heat. It is a predatory stillness that consumes all motion. It has seeped into the very marrow of the stone, locking every atom into a rigid crystalline stasis. The surface of the object is etched with the scars of 1 million micro-impacts, tiny grains of cosmic dust hitting at tens of thousands of kilometers per hour. Yet even these violent events are separated by centuries of absolute nothingness. The shard tumbles with a slow, agonizing grace, completing a single rotation over the course of many hours. As it turns, the distant light of 1 billion suns glints off its dark, carbon-rich facets, casting long, sharp shadows into the surrounding ink. It is a shape born of chaos, a jagged obsidian needle threaded through the tapestry of the void. In the space between stars, the concept of a destination is a hollow one. The messenger exists in a perpetual state of transit, a nomad of the vacuum that has seen the birth of nebulae and the fading of distant supernova. It has passed through clouds of molecular gas that will one day collapse into the hearts of new stars, and it has skirted the edges of massive gravitational wells that tried to pull it from its path, yet it remained true to its lonely trajectory. For 6 million years it was a secret kept by the universe, a piece of cosmic mail with no recipient, travelling through a silence so profound that even the concept of sound feels like a distant, impossible dream. The void is an indifferent machine, and the shard is but a tiny gear, moving without friction through a mechanism that spans the breadth of the galaxy. The darkness here is absolute, broken only by the cold, unblinking eyes of the stars. To an observer, the shard would be invisible, a black silhouette against a blacker background, detectable only when it occults the light of a distant sun for a fraction of a second. It carries within its frozen core the secrets of a different solar architecture, the isotopes of a sun that burned with a different intensity, the minerals of a planet that followed a different path of evolution. It is a fragment of a lost reality, a piece of a puzzle that no longer exists, yet it persists, preserved by the perfect vacuum. The object is a testament to the endurance of matter. While the star system it fled may have changed beyond recognition, while its parent planets may have been swallowed by their aging sun or cast into the freezing depths of the outer rim, this single fragment remains. It is a physical record of a moment of destruction, a geological memory of a world that was torn asunder. It moves with the quiet confidence of the inanimate, indifferent to the passage of eons, a traveller that requires neither fuel nor breath. Now, the solitary spark ahead begins to grow. The sun, once just another point of light among the millions, starts to exert a subtle, invisible pull. The messenger is crossing the outer boundaries of a new territory, entering the gravitational influence of a star it has never known. It has survived the long 6 million year vigil in the dark, and the seal of its long silence is nearing its end. The warmth of a foreign star begins to brush against its frozen skin, a sensation it has not felt since it was first cast out from the fires of its birth. The journey through the void is coming to a close, and the story it carries is about to be told to a world that was not yet born when its journey began. The silence of the interstellar medium is about to be broken by the curiosity of a young species, and the letter from the deep will finally find its reader. The invisible frontier is not marked by stone or flame, but by the subtle, persistent tug of a distant sovereign. As the jagged messenger crosses the threshold of the Oort cloud, it enters a realm where the sun's authority, though faint, is absolute. This is the frozen periphery of our solar system, a spherical shell of icy debris that has remained undisturbed for 4.5 billion years. Here, trillions of cometary nuclei drift in a slow, cold dance, their orbits so vast they take millions of years to complete a single circuit. The interstellar visitor pierces this veil like a needle through silk, moving with a velocity that sets it apart from the native inhabitants of this dark suburb. It does not belong to the family of objects born from the sun's original disk. It is an intruder, a hyperbolic ghost, passing through a graveyard of ancient ice. The geometry of its flight is dictated by the inescapable laws of celestial mechanics. In the language of the stars, its path is defined as a hyperbola. Unlike the planets and asteroids that call this system home, which trace closed ellipses and circles around the central fire, the visitor possesses an eccentricity greater than 1. This mathematical distinction is a declaration of independence. It means the object carries more kinetic energy than the sun's gravity can ever hope to tether. It is a guest that refuses to be a captive, a traveller whose momentum is a product of a birth far beyond our local horizon. To the sun, this object is a fleeting anomaly, a mass that defies the circular harmony of the planets. As it descends deeper into the gravity well, the visitor begins to accelerate. The sun, a massive well of space-time curvature, pulls on the shard with increasing intensity. Every hour that passes, the object gains speed, falling toward the centre of the system with a relentless mounting energy. This is the physics of the fall, a conversion of potential energy into a screaming velocity. It does not spiral inward toward a collision, but rather curves toward a close encounter, its trajectory shaped into a sharp, elegant arc that will eventually fling it back out into the night. The sun's gravity acts as a cosmic lens, bending the path of the messenger but unable to break its spirit. This is a cosmic slingshot, a momentary intersection of two vastly different histories where the laws of motion are the only bridge between them. The messenger is now a bullet of stone and carbon, hurtling through the Kuiper belt and past the orbits of the outer giants. The silence of the deep void has been replaced by the increasing pressure of the solar wind and the intensifying glare of the yellow star. The path is set, carved by equations that do not bend and constants that do not waver. The visitor has arrived at the inner sanctum of the system, its arrival a challenge to the established order of the planets, a hyperbolic intrusion that demands to be seen. It is moving at tens of thousands of kilometers per hour, a speed that would vaporize any craft ever built by human hands should it strike an atmosphere. Yet here, in the near vacuum of the outer system, it is merely a silent dark shape cutting through the solar sea. The Oort cloud is left behind, its frozen sentinels receding into the distance as the visitor plunges toward the warmth. The cold, dark facets of the shard begin to react to the increasing radiation. The temperature on its leading edge rises from the near absolute zero of the interstellar medium to a level where the most volatile chemicals might begin to stir. Yet, unlike a comet, it does not sprout a tail. It does not shed its skin in a chaotic display of outgassing. It remains a solid, singular presence, its integrity unyielding, even as the solar fire grows brighter. The physics of its approach are clean, a pure expression of mass and velocity interacting with a gravitational field. This is the moment where the messenger transitions from a wanderer of the void to a target of observation. It is entering the space where the light of the sun is strong enough to reflect off its jagged surfaces, sending a faint, flickering signal into the surrounding dark. It is moving too fast to be caught, too fast to be ignored. The trajectory is a one-way street, a path that leads into the heart of the solar system and then out again, never to return. The eccentricity of its orbit ensures that this is its only visit, a single, brief encounter in a history that spans millions of years. The messenger is falling into the light, and as it does, the mathematical certainty of its path brings it ever closer to the watchful eyes of a world it has never known. The sun's grip tightens as the distance closes, the gravitational pull increasing by the square of the diminishing distance. The shard is now a captive of the local geometry, even if only for a few months. It passes the orbit of Neptune, then Uranus, and finally Saturn, its speed climbing with every million kilometers it covers. It is a dark needle sewing its way through the vast gaps between the gas giants, a tiny speck of matter on a collision course with destiny. The laws of motion, written in the very fabric of the universe, guide it with a precision that no machine could replicate. It is a masterclass in orbital dynamics, a demonstration of the power of a single, massive star to command the motion of everything that enters its domain. The hyperbolic arc is tightening, the velocity is peaking, and the stage is being set for the moment when the silent messenger finally meets the gaze of the inhabitants of the third planet. On the high, volcanic ridges of the Hawaiian archipelago, where the air is stripped of its moisture and the atmosphere thins into a transparent veil, a pair of mechanical sentinels stand watch. Here, the silence of the mountain is broken only by the low hum of cooling systems and the occasional whisper of the Pacific wind against the dome structures. These are the eyes of the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, or ATLIS, a project born from the collective realization that our world resides in a cosmic shooting gallery. While the rest of the planet sleeps, these twin telescopes pivot on their mounts with a mechanical precision that belies their modest scale. Each telescope possesses a primary mirror measuring exactly 0.5 meter in diameter, an aperture that, while small by the standards of modern astronomy, is optimized for a singular, vital purpose. They do not seek to peer into the hearts of distant galaxies or to resolve the swirling clouds of gas in some far-off nebula. Instead, they are hunters of motion. This system, brought into existence through the foresight and funding of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration in the year 2011, serves as a shield for a world that has only recently become aware of the hazards drifting in the dark. The twin telescopes situated on the peaks of Haleakala and Mauna Loa scan the entirety of the accessible sky several times every night. They are designed to find the intruders, the rocks and ice that move against the fixed, unchanging tapestry of the distant stars. Their sensors are tuned to detect the faint reflected sunlight of objects that might be on a collision course with our fragile biosphere. For over a decade, they have maintained a quiet vigil, cataloguing thousands of near-Earth objects and ensuring that the dark places of the solar system hold no surprises that could end the story of civilization. The process is one of digital subtraction. The telescopes capture a sequence of images, and sophisticated algorithms strip away everything that stays still. The stars, the galaxies, and the nebulae are discarded, leaving behind only the wanderers. On this particular night, the silicon sensors at the heart of the ATLIS system are bathed in the light of the messenger that has travelled for 6 million years. The photons, having bounced off the jagged carbon-rich facets of the interstellar shard, finally complete their journey by striking a detector on a remote ridge in the middle of the ocean. To the computer, it is initially just a single, faint dot, a few pixels of light that were not there an hour before. But this dot is different. It does not move like the rocks born of our own sun. Its velocity is too high, its path too straight, and its defiance of the local gravity too blatant to be ignored. The machines do not feel wonder, yet they are programmed to recognize the extraordinary. As the data streams from the mountain peaks to the servers of the University of Hawaii, the system flags the detection. It is a signal that demands human intervention, a mathematical anomaly that breaks the expected patterns of the solar system. The telescopes continue their sweep, moving to the next patch of sky, but the record of the visitor is now etched into the digital memory of the species. The ATLIS system has fulfilled its purpose. It has caught the glint of the cosmic letter as it crossed the threshold. The vigil on the ridge continues, the half-meter mirrors reflecting the cold light of the stars as they have done since 2011. The wind moans through the struts of the observatories, a lonely sound that echoes the desolation of the space the visitor has just traversed. Below the mountain, the lights of human cities flicker, unaware that the first paragraph of a new chapter in history has just been transcribed. We have spent millennia looking at the stars and wondering if we are alone, never realizing that the answers might arrive not as a radio signal, but as a silent, tumbling piece of a world that died before we were born. The Sentinels of Hawaii have done their work, and the data they have gathered is about to ignite a fire in the minds of those who study the architecture of the heavens. The messenger is no longer a secret of the void. It has been named, it has been tracked, and the long silence of its 6-million-year journey is finally over. The inhabitants of the third planet are now watching, their telescopes and their intellects focused on the dark needle as it plunges deeper into the light of the sun. This is the moment the witness meets the message, and the geometry of the void is about to be translated into the language of human discovery. The history of the stars was once a story of isolation. For centuries, the human understanding of the solar system was that of a walled garden, a closed loop of planets and debris bound forever to the singular gravity of the sun. We believed that the vast distances between the stars acted as an impassable moat, ensuring that nothing born of a foreign sun could ever reach our shores. This illusion of solitude was shattered in the month of October, in the year 2017. On that day, an astronomer named Robert Werrick, working with the Panoramic Survey Telescope and Rapid Response System in Hawaii, looked at a dataset and found a ghost. It was a faint, fast-moving streak that defied every law of local orbital dynamics. This object was designated as One-Eye-Oumuamua, a name derived from the Hawaiian language meaning a messenger or scout from the distant past. It was the first time in the history of science that we had witnessed a traveller from the interstellar deep. Its eccentricity, the mathematical measure of its orbit, was far higher than 1, a value that proved it was not merely a long-period comet from the Oort cloud, but a true alien to our system. It moved with a velocity that the sun could not contain, tracing a sharp hyperbolic path that had brought it within the orbit of Mercury before flinging it back toward the constellation of Pegasus. It was a jagged, reddish shard, strangely elongated, unlike any asteroid or comet ever seen. It lacked a coma, yet as it left the system, it accelerated as if pushed by an invisible hand. This event marked the birth of interstellar archaeology, the study of the physical remnants of other star systems. The discovery of One-Eye-Oumuamua was not an isolated miracle, but a herald of a new reality. Less than 2 years later, in August of the year 2019, the second visitor appeared. Discovered by an amateur astronomer named Gennady Borisov, this object was designated as 2-Eye Borisov. Unlike the first visitor, which was an enigma of stone and acceleration, 2-Eye Borisov was a classic wanderer, a comet rich in carbon monoxide and water ice that looked remarkably similar to the primordial debris of our own system. It served as a vital confirmation that the space between stars is not an empty vacuum, but a crowded highway filled with the shrapnel of forming and dying worlds. These two visitors transformed our view of the galaxy from a collection of isolated islands into a vast interconnected ecosystem where material is constantly exchanged across the light years. Robert Werrick's discovery did more than just add a new category to the astronomical catalogues. It dismantled the provincialism of our cosmic perspective. It revealed that our solar system is a port of call, a place where the debris of the Milky Way occasionally drifts through. The hyperbolic orbits of these objects are the signatures of their origin. mathematical proofs that they were forged in the fires of foreign stars and ejected by the gravitational might of giant planets in systems we will never visit. They are the archaeological ruins of distant solar systems, carrying the chemical and physical history of environments that may no longer exist. To study them is to touch the material of another world without ever leaving our own. The realization that we live in an open system has changed the way we look at the dark. We no longer see the space between the stars as a barrier, but as a medium of transport. Every few years, a piece of a distant world passes through our neighborhood, a silent witness to the processes of planetary birth and destruction that occur throughout the galaxy. We have become a species of beachcombers, walking the shores of our solar system and looking for the treasures washed up from the interstellar ocean. One-Eye Oumuamua and Two-Eye Borisov were the first two entries in a new ledger of discovery, proving that the galaxy is a place of constant motion and exchange. Now, as the third interstellar object, designated as 3i 2024, moves toward its closest approach, we stand on the shoulders of those who first recognized these travelers. The work of Veric, and those who followed, has prepared us for this moment. We understand the physics of the hyperbolic path. We know that the eccentricity greater than 1 is the mark of the outsider. We are no longer surprised by the arrival of a messenger from the stars, but we are more hungry than ever for the secrets it might carry. The archaeology of the deep has moved from a series of fortunate accidents to a systematic search for the fragments of the universe. The visitor currently plunging toward the sun is not just a rock, it is a volume of history, a physical piece of a story that began 6 million years ago in a star system far removed from our own. We are ready to read the next chapter, to see what this new shard reveals about the diversity of the cosmos and the common laws that govern the birth of worlds. The garden is open, the walls are down, and the messengers are arriving with increasing frequency, each one a testament to the fact that we are part of a much larger, much more ancient story. The data arrived in a silent stream of binary, a series of electrical pulses travelling from the high summit of the mountain to the processing centres in the valleys below. In the quiet hours of the morning, the software of the ITLIS system isolated a single persistent anomaly within the digital noise. It was a sequence of images captured in rapid succession, showing a point of light that refused to adhere to the predictable rhythms of the local sky. While the background stars remained fixed in their ancient frozen positions, this speck moved with a terrifying linear efficiency. It was designated as 3i 2024, the third confirmed visitor from the interstellar medium, and its first appearance on a human screen was a moment of profound mathematical revelation. The significance of this detection lay not in the brightness of the object, which was faint and elusive, but in the staggering magnitude of its velocity. As the computers mapped its position over time, they calculated a vector that defied the logic of our solar system. The object was screaming through the vacuum at a speed exceeding 42 kilometers per second. This number is a boundary, a line in the sand drawn by the immutable laws of physics. At the distance of our planet from the Sun, the local escape velocity is approximately 42.1 kilometers per second. Any object moving slower than this threshold is a captive of the Sun's gravity, bound to orbit the central fire for eternity. But 3i 2024 possessed a kinetic energy that exceeded this limit. It was moving with a conviction that the Sun's gravitational well could not dampen. This velocity serves as a mathematical proof of its extrasolar origin. To move at such speeds, the object must have been accelerated by a force far greater than anything found in the quiet suburbs of our solar system. It is a velocity born in the violent heart of a distant star system, perhaps granted by the gravitational slingshot of a gas giant larger than Jupiter, or by the explosive death of a parent sun. For 6 million years it had carried this momentum through the absolute zero of the void, and now, as it pierced our local neighbourhood, it did so as a true outsider. The gravity of the Sun, which commands the majestic orbits of the 8 planets, and the billions of icy bodies in the Oort cloud, was too weak to hold this traveller. To the Sun, 3i 2024 is a ghost, a mass that passes through its domain without ever truly becoming part of it. The realization of what this speed meant rippled through the scientific community with the force of a physical impact. This was not a misplaced asteroid or a comet nudged from the Kuiper belt. Those objects move at relative speeds that are far more modest, their energies tethered to the local gravitational landscape. 3I 2024, by contrast, was a bullet of interstellar history, its path a straight line that would eventually carry it back out into the dark. It was a guest that did not intend to stay, a visitor whose very presence challenged the notion of our system as a closed loop. The physics of its flight were a declaration of independence from the sun's authority. As the data was refined, the velocity was confirmed to be 42.8 kilometers per second. Every kilometer per second above the escape threshold is a testament to the object's alien nature. It is a hyperbound traveller, a term that describes its freedom from the gravitational shackles of our star. The discovery of such an object is an exercise in cosmic humility. It reminds us that our sun is but one of hundreds of billions, and that the space between them is not a barrier but a bridge. The messenger was moving so fast that it would cross the entire diameter of the inner solar system in a matter of months, a blink of an eye in the context of its multi-million-year journey. The detection of 3I 2024 at this specific velocity marked the transition from speculation to certainty. We were no longer looking at a potential anomaly. We were witnessing a physical piece of another world passing through our own. The momentum it carried was a legacy of its birth, a kinetic memory of the star system it once called home. The fact that it was moving with such incredible speed meant that its encounter with the sun would be brief and intense, a momentary intersection of two vastly different cosmic paths. The inhabitants of the third planet were now watching a traveller that was moving too fast to be caught, too fast to be ignored, and too fast to be anything other than a message from the deep. The stage was now set for the most mysterious chapter of its visit, for as the object reached its closest approach, it was about to do something that no rock or comet had ever done before. The mathematical proof of its origin was only the beginning. The true nature of the messenger was hidden within the changes it was about to undergo under the heat of a foreign sun. The moment of closest approach is a crucible of radiation and gravity. As the visitor, designated as 3I 2024, reaches its perihelion, the point where its hyperbolic path brings it nearest to the solar furnace, it is subjected to an intensity of light and heat it has not experienced in 6 million years. The telescopes on Earth and the orbital observatories positioned in the cold silence of space are all trained on this singular point in the dark. In the specific observation log recorded at the 57-minute mark of its closest transit, the data begins to scream. This timestamp, henceforth known in the annals of astronomy as at 57, captures a transformation that defies the known behaviour of every asteroid and comet in the human catalogue. The light curve of the object, a measurement of its brightness over time, had previously shown a rhythmic, predictable flickering, consistent with a jagged piece of stone tumbling through the void. But at the 57-minute mark, this rhythm shatters. The reflected light does not merely spike, it expands with a geometric precision. The brightness of the object increases by a factor of 10, then 20, then 50, yet the gravitational influence it exerts on its surroundings, its mass, remains absolutely constant. To the observers on the ground, it is as if a dormant seed has suddenly felt the first touch of spring and begun to bloom. The object is unfurling. This is not the chaotic disintegration of a comet. When a comet approaches the sun, the heat sublimates its icy heart, creating a messy, glowing shroud of gas and dust that we call a coma. But 3I 2024 remains clean. There is no cloud of debris, no trailing tail of ions. Instead, the physical profile of the object is expanding. Its surface area is growing at a rate that suggests a hidden internal architecture is being triggered by the solar heat. It is as if a complex multi-layered seal has been broken, allowing a structure of impossible thinness to deploy from within the jagged obsidian shell. The dormant stone is shedding its identity as a piece of cosmic shrapnel and revealing itself to be something active, something designed. The data suggests the object is transforming into a sheet of immense proportions, a shimmering veil of carbon-rich material that catches the solar wind like a sail. This expansion occurs with a mechanical grace that suggests intent, or at least a highly evolved physical reaction to the proximity of a star. The jagged shard that entered our system is gone, replaced by a vast, thin geometry that stretches across hundreds of meters of vacuum. This is the deployment event, a moment where the messenger finally opens its wings. The heat of our sun, which would destroy a lesser object, has acted as the key to a lock that has been shut for eons. The implications of the at 57 event are staggering. If the mass remains constant while the surface area increases so dramatically, the density of the object must be falling to near zero. It has become a gossamer structure, a phantom in the light. This change is not a passive destruction. It is a transition from one state of being to another. The object has ceased to be a mere passenger on a gravitational current and has become a participant in the physics of the inner solar system. It is now interacting with the radiation pressure of the sun in a way that a solid rock never could. In the control rooms and observatories, the atmosphere is one of stunned silence. The mathematical models used to predict the behavior of interstellar visitors are being rewritten in real time. We are witnessing the activation of a relic. Whether this is a natural phenomenon of a chemistry we do not yet understand, or the functioning of a machine built by a distant intelligence, the result is the same. The messenger has changed its form. It has responded to the environment of our solar system with a specific measurable action. The at 57 log is the smoking gun of this transformation, a digital record of the moment the universe proved once again that it is far more complex and mysterious than our theories allow. The visitor is no longer a silent shard of history. It is an active geometry, a shimmering sheet of matter that is now drinking in the light of the sun. The expansion is complete, and the object is now a different creature than the one that crossed the Oort cloud. It has prepared itself for the next phase of its journey, and as it begins to move away from the sun, the effects of this new shape will become apparent. The deployment was not just a change in appearance, it was a change in destiny. The messenger has opened the letter, and the first lines are written in the language of light and area. The transformation at 57 minutes into the observation is the bridge between the cold, dark past of the object and its bright, accelerating future. The dormant stone has woken up, and the inhabitants of the third planet are the only ones left to witness its first breath in the light of a new star. The departure of the visitor from the inner sanctum of the solar system is marked by a profound defiance of the expected. In the cold, calculating world of celestial mechanics, gravity is the master architect. Every planet, every moon, and every grain of dust is expected to follow a path dictated by the mass of the sun and the curvature of space-time. But as 3i 2024 begins its outward journey, it drifts away from the ballistic line. It is experiencing what astronomers call non-gravitational acceleration, a phantom force that nudges it away from the sun with more energy than gravity alone can explain. This is not a subtle drift. It is a clear, measurable deviation that shatters the standard models of orbital motion. To understand the strangeness of this movement, one must look to the behavior of comets, the traditional wanderers of our system. A comet is a dirty snowball, a conglomerate of water ice, frozen carbon dioxide and silicate dust. As it nears the sun, the intense radiation causes these ices to sublimate, turning directly from solid to gas. This gas erupts from the surface in violent jets, acting like a primitive rocket engine that pushes the comet off its gravitational course. This process is messy and unmistakable. It creates a glowing coma of gas and a majestic tail of dust that stretches across millions of kilometers. If 3i 2024 were a comet, its deviation would be accompanied by a spectacular display of celestial pyrotechnics. Yet, the visitor remains hauntingly clean. The most powerful telescopes on Earth and in orbit have scrutinized the space around the object, searching for the slightest hint of gas or dust. They find nothing. There is no coma, no tail, and no spectroscopic signature of water vapor or carbon monoxide. The object is not a rocket. It is not shedding its mass to gain momentum. The traditional explanation for non-gravitational acceleration, the outgassing of volatile ices, is physically impossible in this case. The vacuum around the messenger is as pristine as the interstellar void it left behind. The force pushing it away from the sun must come from a different source entirely. The answer lies in the dramatic transformation that occurred at the 57-minute mark of its closest approach. By expanding its surface area while maintaining its mass, the object has fundamentally changed how it interacts with the environment of the solar system. It has become a creature of the light. The sun does not merely illuminate the universe, it exerts a physical pressure. Photons, the fundamental particles of light, possess no mass, yet they carry momentum. When a photon strikes a surface, it imparts a tiny microscopic push. For a dense, heavy object like an asteroid, this radiation pressure is negligible, a whisper against a mountain. But for an object that is incredibly thin and possesses a vast surface area relative to its mass, the whisper becomes a roar. The visitor is now a solar sail, catching the relentless stream of photons flowing outward from the sun. The deployment seen earlier was the unfurling of a cosmic sheet, a geometry designed, whether by nature or by intent, to harness the momentum of light itself. This is the source of the non-gravitational acceleration. The sun's light, usually a gentle bath of radiation, has become a physical hammer, striking the shimmering surface of the messenger and pushing it outward with a persistent mounting force. It is navigating the solar system not through the consumption of fuel, but through the harvesting of the star's own energy. This realization shifts the narrative from one of passive drifting to one of active interaction. The visitor is no longer a stone falling through a well. It is a vessel riding the solar wind. The physics of its flight are a masterclass in efficiency. By using the radiation pressure of the sun, it can alter its trajectory and gain speed without the need for complex machinery or chemical propellants. It is a form of propulsion that humans have theorized for decades, but have only begun to test on a minuscule scale. Here, in the heart of our system, we are witnessing a full-scale demonstration of the technology of the stars. The deviation from the gravitational path is the final piece of evidence needed to confirm the object's unique nature. It proves that the messenger is not a solid, uniform body of rock. It is a structure of extreme low density, a gossamer sheet that can be moved by the weightless touch of light. The mathematical models that once predicted a simple hyperbolic exit must now be adjusted to account for the constant, outward push of the solar photons. The visitor is leaning into the stream, using the energy of our own star to accelerate its departure. This movement through the light is a silent, graceful process. There are no explosions, no plumes of fire, and no screaming engines. There is only the steady, invisible pressure of the sun against the dark, carbon-rich veil of the messenger. It is a dance of physics where the most powerful force in the solar system, the gravity of the sun, is being countered by the most subtle force, the momentum of its light. As the object moves further away, the pressure will diminish, but the velocity it has gained will remain, a permanent addition to its interstellar momentum. The messenger is leaving us, its path carved not just by the mass of the sun, but by its brilliance. It is a departure that leaves the scientific community in a state of wonder, for we have seen a rock turn into a sail, and a traveller from the dark turn into a navigator of the light. The enigma of its movement is a testament to the fact that in the vastness of the cosmos, the most powerful messages are often carried on the wings of the most subtle forces. The flickering of the visitor as it retreats from the sun provides the final, definitive map of its physical form. This data, gathered through meticulous light curve analysis, reveals a geometry that challenges the very definitions of natural celestial bodies. In the vast majority of cases, the objects that populate our solar system, the asteroids, the moons, and the planets, are governed by the pull of their own gravity. which tends to crush matter into spheres or irregular potato-shaped lumps. Even the most elongated asteroids rarely exceed a ratio of 3:1 in their dimensions. But the light curve of 3I 2024 tells a story of an extreme, almost impossible architecture. As it tumbles through the void, the variation in its brightness is so radical that it can only be explained by a shape of profound thinness. The object is not a jagged rock or a cigar-shaped cylinder, it is a sheet. The mathematical models required to match the observed flickering suggest a structure that is hundreds of meters in length and width, yet perhaps only millimeters thick. When the object turns its broadside toward the Earth, it reflects a significant amount of solar radiation, appearing as a bright, sharp point of light. But as it continues its slow, chaotic tumble and presents its edge to our telescopes, it practically vanishes, its profile becoming so thin that it becomes nearly invisible against the blackness of the background. This is a geometry of extreme surface-to-mass ratio, a planar monolith that has no equivalent in the natural history of our own solar system. The motion of this sheet is not a simple, stable spin. It is a complex, precessing tumble, a movement known as non-principal axis rotation. It wobbles through space like a discarded piece of foil caught in a breeze, yet there is no breeze in the vacuum, only the steady pressure of light. This tumbling motion is the key to understanding the distribution of its mass. It confirms that the object is not a hollow shell or a cluster of smaller fragments, but a single, coherent membrane of material. The sheer rarity of such a shape in nature cannot be overstated. While space is filled with the jagged shrapnel of planetary collisions, the processes of fragmentation and erosion almost never produce a flat, wide sheet of uniform thinness. Nature prefers the rough, the rounded, and the bulky. The visitor, by contrast, is a triumph of the linear and the planar. This architectural anomaly has revitalized a hypothesis that once existed on the fringes of planetary science. In the wake of the first interstellar visitor, the astrophysicist Avi Loeb popularized the theory that such objects might not be natural at all, but rather the remnants of an advanced technology. He proposed that a shape of this nature, extremely thin, wide, and capable of being moved by radiation pressure, is the hallmark of a solar sail. In this view, 3I 2024 is not a wandering rock, but a functional artifact, a piece of hardware designed to traverse the gaps between stars by surfing on the light of the suns it encounters. The deployment event witnessed at the 57-minute mark of its closest approach was not a geological accident, but the mechanical activation of a sail, a structure designed to catch the solar wind and propel the messenger back into the deep. The solar sail hypothesis provides a coherent explanation for every anomaly observed. It explains the impossible thinness, the extreme surface area, the constant mass, and the non-gravitational acceleration. It suggests that the messenger is a craft, perhaps an automated probe or a derelict scout from a civilization that flourished millions of years ago. To Loeb and those who follow this line of reasoning, the object is a piece of techno-signature, a physical proof that we are not the only architects in the galaxy. The tumble of the sheet is not the erratic movement of a dead stone, but the slow, graceful decay of a machine that has fulfilled its purpose and is now drifting home on the tides of light. Even if one remains skeptical of an artificial origin, the physical reality of the object remains an enigma. If it is natural, it represents a category of matter and a process of formation that we have never before encountered. It would mean that in the chaotic birth of other solar systems, conditions exist that can forge sheets of carbon-rich material on a scale of hundreds of meters. Whether it is a product of a foreign biology, a foreign technology, or a foreign geology, the visitor is a challenge to our understanding of what is possible in the universe. It is a piece of evidence that suggests the rules of our own solar system are not the universal standard. The light curve analysis has transformed the visitor from a distant point of light into a tangible, if baffling, physical presence. We can now see it in our minds as it truly is, a shimmering dark veil, a gossamer ghost tumbling through the light of our sun. It is a structure that speaks of a different kind of order, a geometry that feels more like a blueprint than a rock. As it moves further away, the tumbling continues, a rhythmic flash of light that serves as a pulse for the messenger. We are watching the departure of a sheet of history, a planar traveller that has crossed the light years to show us that the universe is capable of an elegance we are only beginning to comprehend. The solar sail, whether born of a mind or the stars themselves, is now a permanent part of our cosmic heritage, a reminder that the most profound secrets are often hidden in the most delicate shapes. On the frozen summit of Mauna Kea, where the atmosphere is so thin that the stars no longer twinkle, but burn with a steady, piercing ferocity, the twin 10-metre mirrors of the Keck Observatory have been turned toward the retreating visitor. These massive structures, the largest optical and infrared telescopes on the planet, do not merely look at the object, they peer into its very soul. By capturing the faint reflected light of 3i 2024 and passing it through a high-resolution spectrograph, astronomers are able to dissect the messenger's identity. The light is smeared into a rainbow, a spectrum of colours where every dark line and bright spike represents a specific element or molecule. This is the chemical fingerprint of a world far removed from our own, and the data it reveals is nothing short of revolutionary. The focus of the analysis falls upon the most fundamental building block of complex matter, carbon. In our own solar system, and indeed across much of the local galactic neighbourhood, the isotopes of carbon follow a predictable and well-documented ratio. Carbon-12, the most common form, vastly outnumbers its heavier cousin, carbon-13. In the rocks of Earth, the gases of Jupiter, and the ice of the most distant comets, this ratio remains remarkably consistent, a signature of the specific cloud of gas and dust that collapsed to form our Sun and its planets 5 billion years ago. We are accustomed to a universe that follows the chemical recipes of our own backyard, but as the Keck Observatory processes the photons from the interstellar visitor, it finds a signature that is fundamentally, undeniably alien. The ratio of carbon-13 within the messenger is vastly higher than anything ever recorded in our system. It is an enrichment that defies local logic. This chemical anomaly is a smoking gun that points toward a birth in a protoplanetary disk with a history entirely different from our own. It suggests that the object was forged in an environment where the nucleosynthesis, the process by which stars create heavier elements, was governed by different conditions. Perhaps its parent star was born in a much older region of the galaxy, or perhaps it was seeded by the explosive death of a different class of supernova. Whatever the cause, the result is a piece of matter that is chemically distinct from every planet, asteroid, and living being in our solar system. This discovery transforms the object from a mere traveller into a relic of a foreign solar architecture. It is a physical piece of a world that operated under a different set of chemical rules. To look at the carbon-13 levels in 3i 2024 is to look at a fossil from a star system that may have existed and perished long before our own Sun even began to glow. It is a messenger from a deep, ancient past, a survivor of a planetary formation process that occurred in a different corner of the Milky Way, under the influence of different stellar neighbours and different gravitational tides. The visitor is a fragment of a lost reality, a sample of a cosmic experiment that we can never witness firsthand. The implications of this isotopic signature reach back into the very dawn of the galaxy. It suggests that the architecture of star systems is not a uniform process, but a diverse and varied one. There are worlds out there built from different ratios of the same fundamental elements, planets where the very ground beneath one's feet would be chemically unrecognisable to an earthbound geologist. The messenger is a proof of this diversity. It carries within its jagged, carbon-rich lattice the memory of a protoplanetary disk that was richer, older, or perhaps more violent than the one that birthed the Earth. It is a piece of the galaxy's deep history, a relic that has survived the eons to bring us a sample of a foreign creation. As the scientists at Keck analyse the data, the sense of awe is palpable. They are not merely looking at a rock, They are looking at the material of a different genesis. The high levels of carbon-13 act as a beacon, signalling that this object is a true stranger in a strange land. It is a reminder that our solar system is just one small room in a vast ancient mansion, and that the materials we consider normal are merely a local variation. The visitor has travelled 6 million years to deliver this message, a chemical letter that tells us our history is not the only history, and our chemistry is not the only chemistry. The messenger continues its outward journey, carrying its alien signature back into the dark, but the data remains. We now know that the universe is a mosaic of different chemical heritages, and that the shards of these foreign worlds are constantly drifting through the spaces between the stars. The unusual ratio of carbon-13 is the final, definitive proof that 3i 2024 is a messenger from a different era and a different place. It is a relic of a foreign architecture, a piece of a world that lived and died in a way we're only beginning to understand. The chemical heart of the visitor has been laid bare, and it has revealed a universe that is far more ancient, far more diverse, and far more mysterious than we ever dared to believe. The letter from the deep has been translated, and its first words speak of a birth among stars we will never name, in a time that predates the very world upon which we stand. The passage of 6 million years is a chasm that swallows the human ego. In the time it took for the jagged messenger to drift from the edge of its home system to the threshold of our own, the very definition of what it means to be alive on this planet has been rewritten 1,000 times. When the shard was first cast into the void, the ancestors of humanity were not yet recognizable as the masters of the earth. They were small, vulnerable creatures navigating the tall grasses of a changing continent, their minds yet to be sparked by the realization of their own mortality. For the vast majority of the object's journey, there was no one on the third planet who could even conceive of the stars as anything other than distant, untouchable fires. The contrast is a brutal lesson in cosmic perspective. While the visitor moved through the absolute stillness of the interstellar medium, the entirety of human development unfolded in a frantic, violent and beautiful blink of an eye. The first taming of fire, the carving of the first stone tools, the birth of language and the emergence of the first cities, all of these monumental shifts occurred, while the shard was still in the early stages of its transit. Every empire that has ever risen, from the sun-drenched temples of the Nile to the sprawling industrial complexes of the modern age, has been born, flourished, and crumbled into dust in the time it took for this single piece of matter to cross a fraction of the distance between the stars. There is a specific haunting measurement that anchors this disparity. In the time it took for the messenger to traverse a single light-year of the void, the whole of human history transpired. From the moment the first spark of self-awareness flickered in a primitive brain, to the moment the first artificial satellite pierced the atmosphere and looked back at the world, the shard had moved only a tiny distance across the galactic map. This realization strips away the illusion of our own importance. We perceive our history as a grand, sweeping epic, a tale of progress and triumph that defines the universe. But to the vacuum, our history is a noiseless, instantaneous event, a brief tremor in a silence that lasts for billions of years. The cosmic machine is indifferent to the life that clings to its gears. The vacuum of space does not pause to witness the fall of a king or the discovery of a new law of physics. It is a cold, unfeeling expanse that operates on a scale of time and energy that renders the human experience invisible. The shard did not travel with the intent of being found. It did not carry its message with the hope of being read. Its transit was a purely physical reaction to the laws of motion and the pull of distant masses. The fact that its arrival coincided with the brief window of time in which humanity possessed the technology to see it is a coincidence of staggering proportions, yet even this coincidence is meaningless to the universe itself. The indifference of the stars is the most profound truth of the interstellar medium. The galaxy is a place of endless birth and entropy, where stars are born in clouds of gas and die in explosions of light, all without regard for the biological observers who might be watching. The messenger is a piece of this indifferent machinery, a relic of a process that has been repeating for billions of years across billions of systems. It has seen the slow rotation of the Milky Way, the drift of stellar clusters, and the fading of ancient nebulae. It has moved through a darkness so absolute that the very concept of a human life, with its passions and its fears, feels like a fragile, impossible dream. We are the only ones who provide a narrative to this journey. To the shard, the 6 million years were a period of unchanging stasis, a long, cold sleep in the dark. To us, those same years represent the entirety of our existence as a species. This gap in perception is the defining characteristic of our relationship with the cosmos. We live in the seconds, while the universe operates in the eons. We see the arrival of the visitor as a momentous event, a turning point in our understanding of the heavens. But the universe simply continues its slow, inexorable churning, the stars moving in their appointed paths, the void remaining as silent and unreachable as it has always been. The realization of this scale does not diminish the wonder of the discovery, but it anchors it in a somber, quiet humility. We have looked into the deep time of the galaxy and found a mirror that reflects our own brevity. The messenger is a reminder that we are newcomers to a very old and very large neighbourhood. Our empires and our discoveries are but a thin layer of dust on the surface of a history that stretches back to the beginning of time. The vacuum remains, the machine continues to turn, and the shard moves on, indifferent to the fact that for one brief moment, it was the most important thing in the world to a small, curious species on a blue planet. The silence of the 6 million years is a weight that we must carry, a testament to the vastness that surrounds us and the fleeting nature of the light we have managed to kindle in the dark. In the face of this vast mechanical indifference, a singular and quiet defiance emerges from the surface of the third planet. We are the ones who have chosen to look up, to build the mirrors of glass and silver, and to record the rhythmic flickering of the distant light. While the universe does not care to be remembered, and while the stars do not seek an audience for their slow thermonuclear deaths, we have become the self-appointed witness to its most private and ancient moments. This is the unique burden and the singular glory of our species, to provide a consciousness to a cosmos that has none. The visitor, which for 6 million years was merely a piece of tumbling matter, moving through a lightless void, is fundamentally transformed the moment it meets our gaze. It is no longer a nameless shard of obsidian and ice. We grant it a designation, a place in our history, and a role in our evolving understanding of the stars. By naming it 3i 2024, we bridge the gap between a cold physical reality and a human story. We are the destination where the cosmic letter is finally opened and read. The system from which this shard fled is likely long gone, its planets perhaps swallowed by the expanding fire of an aging red giant, or cast into the freezing dark by the gravitational whim of a passing star. Yet, because we have observed this fragment, that system is not entirely lost to the abyss of time. We have reconstructed its chemistry from the faint light it reflects. We have measured the conviction of its velocity and marvelled at the impossible thinness of its geometry. In doing so, we have preserved the memory of a foreign sun. Observation is not a passive act of data collection, it is a profound act of preservation. In a universe that is constantly erasing its own tracks through the relentless march of entropy, the act of looking and recording is the only thing that keeps the past from being truly extinguished. We are the keepers of the galactic ledger, the ones who ensure that the stories of other worlds do not vanish into the silence of the vacuum. The deployment that occurred at the 57-minute mark of the closest approach was, to the rigid laws of physics, a simple and inevitable reaction to thermal energy. But to the witness, it is a revelation of architecture, a sign of hidden complexity, and a testament to a different kind of nature. We weave these disparate data points into a narrative that spans the light years. We are the ones who find beauty in the unusual ratio of carbon-13, and meaning in the subtle drift caused by the pressure of solar photons. Without the observer, the messenger is just a rock in the dark, a meaningless collision of atoms. With the observer, the messenger becomes a teacher, a relic, and a bridge to the infinite. This is our role in the cosmic machine. We are the part of the universe that has woken up and begun to ask questions, the part that refuses to let the history of the stars go unrecorded. There is a quiet gratitude in this realization. We built the ITLIS system not just to survive the threat of impact, but to read the mail of the cosmos. We are the first generation of our species to recognize these letters from the deep for what they are. This shifts our perspective from one of fear to one of profound responsibility. To see 3i 2024 is to accept the hand of a stranger across the gulf of time. It is to acknowledge that our own sun is not the only source of light, and that our own history is not the only story worth telling. By witnessing the transit of the messenger, we ensure that the system it left behind, no matter how far away or how long ago it perished, has a legacy. We are the ones who give the object its meaning, transforming a physical reaction into a literary masterpiece of the stars. The witness does not change the path of the object. The messenger will still depart into the dark, and it will still be subject to the cold indifference of the vacuum. But the witness changes the nature of the universe itself by introducing the element of memory. Because we have seen it, the journey of 6 million years was not in vain. Because we have recorded it, the chemical signature of a foreign world is now part of the human record. We are the small, fragile vessels of memory in a galaxy that is prone to forgetting. In a universe that does not care to be remembered, we have become the destination where nothing is ever truly lost, provided there is someone left to see it. The cosmic letter has been delivered, the seal has been broken, and the story of a distant star has found its way into the minds of those who live on the third planet. This is the essence of our humanity. We are the ones who remember the stars. The visitor is now a receding shadow, a thinning ghost against the backdrop of the outer solar system. The intense heat that triggered its dramatic transformation is fading, replaced once again by the biting, absolute cold of the deep. The sun, which for a brief moment was a roaring furnace at its leading edge, is shrinking into a solitary yellow point, just another star among the billions that populate the spiral arms of the galaxy. The non-gravitational push of the photons is weakening as the distance grows, but the momentum granted by our star is permanent. 3i 2024 is accelerating back into the dark, its hyperbolic path carrying it away from the ecliptic plane and toward the distant, cold constellations of the northern sky. It has completed its transit of our local neighbourhood, a brief and brilliant intersection in a journey that spans the ages. On the ridges of Hawaii and in the silent orbits of our space-based observatories, the signal is becoming harder to find. The jagged, shimmering sheet that once reflected a wealth of data is now a tiny, flickering needle in a haystack of cosmic proportions. The telescopes must strain to catch the final few photons as the messenger crosses the orbit of Neptune and plunges back into the Kuiper belt. Soon, even the most powerful mirrors on the planet will lose sight of it. The object will return to the state it maintained for 6 million years, a silent, dark nomad of the vacuum, invisible to any eye that does not know exactly where to look. It carries with it the warmth of our sun and the digital memory of our observation, moving back into a silence so profound that the human mind can only barely conceive of its depth. Yet, this departure is not a tragedy, nor is it a loss. The messenger has fulfilled its purpose. It has delivered its chemical and physical testimony to the only species in this corner of the galaxy capable of understanding it. The data gathered during the at 57 event, the spectroscopic analysis of its carbon-13 heart, and the mathematical proof of its solar sail geometry are now permanent parts of the human record. We have transcribed the cosmic letter. The star system that birthed this object may be long dead, and the civilization that might have crafted it may have faded into the mists of deep time, but they are no longer forgotten. Through the act of observation, we have granted them a second life within our own history. We have proven that in a universe of entropy and decay, nothing is truly lost as long as there is an observer to witness the event and a scribe to record the story. the visitor will continue its journey for millions of years to come. It will pass other stars, perhaps entering other solar systems where other eyes might one day look up and wonder at its strange, thin geometry. It may travel for another 6 million years before it encounters another source of heat that causes it to unfurl its wings once more. It is a permanent inhabitant of the interstellar ocean, a piece of wandering history that links the stars together in a web of motion and matter. Behind it, on the third planet, the work of the witness continues. The twin telescopes of the ITLIS system continue their pivot, scanning the dark for the next messenger, the next letter from the deep that is even now falling toward our sun. We have learned that our solar system is not a closed garden, but a port of call. We have learned that the chemistry of the stars is a diverse and ancient tapestry, and that the architecture of worlds can take forms we never dared to envision. Most importantly, we have learned that our role in this vast, uncaring machine is to be the ones who remember. We are the consciousness of the cosmos, the destination where the silence of the void is finally translated into the language of meaning. The messenger is gone, but the story remains, a testament to the power of curiosity and the endurance of the human spirit in the face of the infinite. The departure of 3i 2024 is a reminder that the universe is a book that is constantly being written, and we have only just begun to read the first few pages. The dark between the stars is not empty. It is filled with the shrapnel of creation and the wandering relics of ancient eras. As we continue to look up, we ensure that the light of discovery never fades. We are the keepers of the history of the universe, the ones who stand on the shore of the interstellar ocean and wait for the messages to wash up on our sands. The vigil on the volcanic ridges of Hawaii will never truly end. For as long as there are stars in the sky, there will be stories to tell and letters to read. If you find value in the documentation of these cosmic mysteries and wish to support our ongoing mission to witness the wonders of the deep, consider subscribing to History of the Universe. Your support allows us to continue our work as the scribes of the stars, ensuring that the ancient wandering letters of the cosmos are never lost to the silence of the dark. Together, we will continue to look into the abyss and find the stories that define our place among the suns. The messenger has returned to the void, but the journey of discovery is only just beginning. Join us as we turn the next page in the grand, unfolding narrative of the heavens,